Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to Let's Talk About Networking Friday afternoon. It's 2 o'clock. I hope that you're all looking forward to the football tonight. Or if you're not, hopefully you're looking forward to just relaxing. Welcome. This is BNI Let's Talk About Networking. Wherever you're watching this, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, I'm not sure, but hopefully you're all right. Today, I am joined by Mark Varela, who is a wonderful, wonderful member of ours in a chapter up in the northwest of Lancashire. Mark, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, mate. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Great to see you. Where do we start, Mark? I mean, I tell you what, let's start right back from the beginning. So you're currently in the financial services industry, but let's take us back. Did you always want to be in this industry? How did you start? Was it a dream of yours from college? Tell us about it.
That's a great question. So I always used to kind of joke about this when I first started out. I kind of first real career move in financial services where I saw a path was to become a trainee broker consultant for a life office in Manchester.
Okay.
And part of that sort of process started with a couple of days up in Edinburgh. And we had to talk about how we got there. You know, how did we arrive there? And I said, well, when I was younger, I think the first thing I really thought about, I can remember having a memory of, was I wanted to be a journalist. Okay. My mum used to bring home a typewriter at weekends, and like a proper typewriter. I used to like write little stories on it and stuff. And then, you know, that was like my sort of kid thing. And then I realised that I wasn't very good at football, so I wasn't as a footballer, and I wasn't a good singer, so I was never going to be a rock star. And so, you know, see all these big dreams starting to narrow a little bit. And then, you know, it just so happened that there was an opening in sales where they'll let anybody in. So, you know, and yeah, and financial services was just a complete fluke. There was work going. There was an employer in Kendal at the time taking on a regular influx of staff. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh, here's something that I am quite good at. So, yeah, so I followed it from there.
Very good. So, I mean, how long have you been kind of doing has it always been in the same industry, the same way of financial services in equity release, or you had experience in other elements of the financial services industry?
Yeah, I started out in a very sort of entry-level admin role, and then did some pensions technical administration, which required a bit more brain power, and then saw this opportunity to go and make a bit of money and move out of Kendal, which, you know, I'd spent 18, 19 years of my life in Kendal, pretty much. So I started applying for jobs in Manchester, and I got in with a life office. And again, it was entry level, sort of largely administrative role. And then I started to just get good at on all the product knowledge side. So I kind of always championed that within the team and had like a little bit of a leadership sort of role. And then I saw that there was broker consultants making money. So I thought, right, you know, and went through all that. So that was very broad, pensions and investments within the main two product areas. And then I actually left the industry for about 6 or 7 years. And I tried a few different things. And nothing was really going anywhere. And I thought, well, actually, I did like the industry. I just didn't like where I'd ended up. So I started topping up on my exams so that I could get into some sort of either an advice or an advice support role. And an opportunity came up with an equity release advice firm. Never considered it. I'd heard about this company, but to me, they sounded like they were a call centre. They actually weren't. There was an element of that within the business. And again, it was just like that little bit of, you know, you're just looking and that's the opportunity. And then I got to know about the market and the products. I was mainly dealing on a business-to-business role. And then one day, one of my boss at the time said, "You'd make a great advisor, Mark. Why don't you go and do that?" And I resisted that for about 2 years because I knew better. And then I just got my exams done, and I was employed for 2.5 years or so going into the pandemic, and then set myself up at the back end of last year on my own.
Good on you. Good on you. And what is it? What is it about kind of equity release that almost drives you, that kind of turns you on to want to say, this is what I want to be doing? What is it about that particular product or service?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to use a cliche, but as I always say, cliches are cliches because for a reason, because they're mainly true. When you start to deal with customers and you see the difference that it makes to people's lives, that's the connection. We're all longing for that connection in humanity. It's how we're built this way. And when you're doing something that you can see has an end, and that's really immediate. And most customers, when they pick up the phone about equity release, think that they're phoning up to arrange a loan, like a personal loan type thing, that type of a transactional sort of piece of business. And that's probably largely down to the way it's marketed, which for good reason it's marketed like that to get, for marketing reasons, because it works.
Yeah.
But it's a conversation. And once you start having that conversation with people, I think they don't realize how much you want to understand about what's going on for them. And then, in some cases, you'll find out a lot. And sometimes, the conversation will meander as well. I'm actually a bit of the exception where for the 2.5 years I was employed, I was a telephone advisor working from home. When the first lockdown broke last year in the summer, about this time, wasn't it? June, July, August, I went and did my first face-to-face advice appointments. And I ended up going to see a couple fairly locally in their 80s. And I felt like a long-lost nephew when I left.
Wow.
Because we'd done 2.5 hours and we'd done all sorts of stuff, and we'd learnt about his employment history and why he'd done certain things. And this is the hardest part, I think, for any equity release advisor. So I don't think anybody in equity release advice would try and hold up that we are on a level with doctors or or academics or anything like that. It's a level 3 qualification, and that's not to put it down. That's to show you the level that it's at. So you don't need to be a genius to go out there and get qualified and to learn about the products, etc. The real skill that you develop is those soft facts and really getting into a conversation with someone and understanding what matters to them and why and where the concerns are. And that's what I love about it, because I'm fascinated by human psychology and humans. Being one myself helps, and being fascinated by why I'm like I am, so I love all that. And it's just getting to know another person and what's going on for them. And hopefully at the end of that, I might be able to help them, whether it's through an equity release product or by directing them to the right solution, or even telling them why equity release isn't something that they need. Yeah. So that's what I love about what I do.
Love that. We've got Sarah Wood. Mark, great to see you on here with Liam there. Well, thank you, Sarah. Comments on the bottom, and also DJ Varela in the house there at the bottom of the screen. Thank you very much, Sarah. So I suppose that's very well segued us onto my next question about, well, let's get to know you a little bit more about you with a professional, Mark, but there's other things in the background. Of course, you've got a wonderful family, and that will drive you forward, and also you've got certain keen hobbies that you like to get involved in as well, I suspect.
Yeah, well, I mean, something that you and I have shared a little bit about, Liam, is about 6 years ago, I entered into a training program that I have no qualms in saying transformed my life. Like who I am for myself, who I am for other people, and who they are for me, and just what this whole thing is about, the world and life. And that has been something that's always been a part of what I've been up to in the world. There was a project that I did earlier this year that brought people together through an online rave, for want of a better
Yeah,
phrase.
yeah.
And being a part of that was absolutely awesome. It's kind of only sinking in with me now, and it was about 6 or 8 weeks ago.
It was.
Like at the time, I was a little bit, I didn't do it for me. I did it for us, and it was our project. All the people that were involved in putting it on, and the people who attended on the night, it was our project. But I'm starting to realise what I've gained from being a part of that, and it's seeing how much it mattered to people, and it's at the start, that's why I did it. But then along the way, when you're putting together the mechanics of it, and that internal voice is always trying to play things down. Like we're generally all rubbish at giving ourselves credit, aren't we? It's the one most people share. Like, oh no, I don't pat myself on the back. But so as you're going through the mechanics of making it work, and you listen to that voice a little bit, you're like, oh well, it's just a music thing, and people turn up and listen to some music. So what? I mean, does it even matter if it happens? And I got like that about it at times. Like, oh well, if no one turns up, probably no one's even bothered if it happens or not. But then when it happened, and I'm still bumping into some people here and there who go, oh, I tuned in the night for a couple of hours, and it was more than a music event; it was a coming together of people. So that's a massive passion of mine. And family is, like I am happiest here. I get the benefit of working at home. I live in a lovely little village where my kids can play out with other kids, and the neighbours are, we've got a good neighbourhood going on. The school's up the road, and that whole little setup is just exactly where I'm at in life. And I'm very comfortable being around at home, hanging out with the family. I'm not necessarily going out there looking for the big adventures at the moment. I'm quite happy with the little things. And again, I think the pandemic's probably taught a lot of people that we don't necessarily need. It's not to say that we can't go and do those things or there's anything wrong with it, but we don't need all of this extra stuff. What we really want are those connections with each other and family, and to know our friends are doing well, and just it's the little stuff that makes the difference for me now.
So let's look back, because you say you started the business back end of 2020, but of course how have you then? I suppose you're in a very unusual position. You're setting a business up in a pandemic, which not many people can say that they've done. So how have you reflected on the past 8-9 months at how you've dealt with not only setting up your own business, but also dealt with a pandemic of not being able to go out and see clients either?
Yeah. So I think I'm very good now at being able to give my own context to events.
Okay.
And the reason, the driving factor in me setting the business up was being furloughed. Now, I didn't know what would happen with that furlough, whether it would last. I can't even remember how long they said it was for originally. It was 8 weeks or 12 weeks or something. I didn't know whether that would mean me going straight back to my job at the end of that period, or whether redundancies would happen. So within the first week, I just decided that this was an amazing opportunity to spend some time putting all of these lessons that I've been learning, I've been a content junkie for years. I knew it would come to some fruition at some point, and starting to use all this stuff to actually come up with a plan. And by the end of that first week, my context was there's no job to go back to, and that's how I went forward. And then from setting the business up, there was a huge level of excitement, and there was all sorts of ideas. And I just got going, and I got a little bit of business, and I was like, great, fine, this is a good start. And then the lockdown happened in January to March, and that pulled the rug from under my feet in a way. The kids were back at home, and whilst they're that age where they can occupy themselves, sometimes they need you pretty much all day. And there was almost like it was just a constant distraction that, should I be in the room with them? Are they okay being on their own for a couple of hours? Is this, there was that conversation going on. So that kind of almost put business on hold for a few months. And yet now when I reflect, I just think how blessed I am to have had that opportunity, to have been able to set up. I actually managed to stay under the same group as the employer that I was with on a self-employed basis, under a slightly different model. So I know the people and the systems and the processes, all of that side of it. So that was an amazing opportunity. I got to spend time with my kids and be able to put in enough to make this work. I got to largely get away with, in a way, having that 3 months where business was very much secondary, and yet I've still managed to. I'm probably coming to the end of what I think maybe my 9th month of trading, and I'm just looking at what business is due in, and I'm on a par with what I would have earned in that 9 months. Now that's not the goal financially for the business, but it's all right for now, bearing in mind that I had that 3 months out.
Absolutely.
And I've just been to walk the dog at a time when normally I'd have to be sat on the clock. And I'm getting to do cool things like this, and I've just got the opportunity to go out and create something that's an expression of who I am. And you can do that in any business you're in.
Yeah.
You can always express yourself through what you do.
Yeah.
And that is the excitement of business for me.
Love that. So we've got to 17 minutes and we've not talked about networking. So let's talk about it. As we steadily speed towards 25 minutes. So networking is networking. Tell us, how did we get to kind of meet? How did you get involved in your group, your chapter up in the northwest of the county? Where did you always think, I want to be involved in networking?
No, not in the slightest. I think I've done speed networking once, and it was awful. The worst bit of it was when I started talking, and this girl just immediately started looking past me, and I was like, and I carried on with my pitch. I was like, I've got to do my pitch. I was like, I hate this. I've been to BNI twice before, I think, for different employers. I didn't really have a plan of why I was going, and then I just went to one session. That was a long time ago. So they've been in my, I knew who they were. And then I got in touch with a friend who I've known for a long time. We crossed paths here and there. And he was a member, and he'd been checking out some of my stuff on LinkedIn. Just did a straight invite, and I was like, sure, of course, why wouldn't I? And see what it was about. And I was so super impressed on the first meeting. Like, it ran like clockwork. And the people were so friendly and welcoming, kind of everything that you'd want from a first meeting. So I was immediately interested. Like, I try not to spend too long dawdling on things, because that was a big thing of mine in the past was procrastination, which we've all suffered from. So I just thought, there's not really a reason to say no here. There's other business people. I'm in business largely. I'm on my own largely. There's some other advisors that are in my network. We have a coffee morning once a week online, and we can chat. But I'm on my own, really. Here's a load of business owners who seem like they're actually interested in what I'm doing, and really that kind of was the first thing that hooked me. More than the business opportunity, the opportunity to be around those people. That was the first thing. And then it just, I came back a second time. There was a friends and family event, so I managed to get a third time in before I had to think about whether I wanted to join or not. And I was just convinced at that stage that being around like-minded people, and there being a purpose for the meeting, that it wasn't just a coffee morning, because I didn't need that. I already had that going on. And that's really what got me into it, and what what got me to I ended up applying for the very generous Givers Gain grant and getting awarded it. So
of course, yeah. Yes. Just for people that maybe aren't watching, but in December, as a region, we awarded what were called Givers Gains grants, where we granted a certain number of memberships across Lancashire to people who'd started their business during the pandemic, and we want to help local businesses. We're all about helping out Lancashire-based businesses. You touched on a point there that has always interested me, and the phrase that's used widely is people come for the business, but they stay for so much more. So I'll touch on that support element. And whilst we've all got enough friends in our lives, actually, the people who we network with and build relationships with, we don't just build business relationships with, we build personal relationships with as well. So just touch on how that support has impacted you over the past 7 or 8 months.
I've got really kind of a lot more free about sharing what's going on for me, like authentically what is going on for me. Sometimes it might take me a little while to get there. That's been amazing, because whenever I've shared something that's going on that matters, that's possibly not working or not working as well as I'd like it to, people have been there straight away. So that's always huge, isn't it? Because no man or woman is an island, and we're not, again, we work better with each other than we do on our own. So that's really kind of like starting to have an impact. And again, cliches, but you do make friends there, and you start talking to other people. All business owners have got shared problems and shared worries and concerns, and it's just nice to be able to get different perspectives, to be around people who are way more experienced in business than me and more experienced in many areas of life. That's just always nice to surround yourself with people like that, and who are generous in sharing, their lessons. There are always people who you naturally feel like giving you mentorship. That's what I've experienced, that there's one or two or three people you gravitate towards because you see eye to eye and you just get so much from that relationship. We're obviously that little bit away from socialising properly. We've done a couple of socially distanced dog walks together, which again has been fun, seeing people just totally away from the BNI thing. So actually, anything but BNI was spoken about, and we weren't even really talking about our own businesses. We were just chatting, and that's nice. And you say we've got enough friends, and I get that as well. Like, I didn't join to find some friends, but I firmly believe you can never know enough people. And networking, the game sheet when you fill out your network, it was a question I asked another group that I went to visit before I joined. My one worry was, well, who do I know? Like, I work at home on my own. I walk my kids to school a few hundred yards up the road. I pop into the village centre and I hang out with my missus and my kids most of the time. Who do I know? And they went, don't worry, you've been there, right? So get your phone out. Oh yeah, there's a couple hundred people there. What about all the parents at the school gates? Oh yeah, etc. And before I knew it, I couldn't write enough people down on the list. I'm like, there's not enough space to write people that I know. So I love getting to know people, and I love networking wherever I am, whether it's in a social element, in a business element. And I just realised that actually that is what I've always done. I've always been a networker. I used to get called a chameleon when I was at the back end of secondary school, because I was the person who was friends with lots of groups.
Yeah.
And other people were like, this group and that group. So I guess maybe I'm just realising that right now I've always been a networker.
Good on you. So, like, we're coming to the last couple of questions, would you believe? And we're rapidly kind of running out of time. But I suppose a quick question and a brief answer, I suppose, is the people watching this, whether it's now on our page, or whether it's later on, whether it's on something that you share, Mark, that go, yeah, I want to grow my business because I want more opportunities, but I'm not entirely sure about referral strategies and networking and marketing. As a relatively new business owner, it's still in the first year. What advice would you give them people?
The first thing I'd say is forget about all the terminology. Like, forget about this idea that that just get rid of all of that context of this terminology. Like that you're coming to something and you've got to do this, and there's this. Just forget what you've heard and go and experience it for yourself. And just come from it from a really blank page. It doesn't matter what you do in life or how good it is. There'll always be people who've got an opinion, a negative opinion, and I'm even saying, forget people's positive opinions. Just come with a blank sheet of paper in your mind and come and see what's there and be open to what's there. And ultimately, networking are just some other people who try to make something work that have probably got some commonalities with you that genuinely want to help you out because they've been through that themselves. So just come to it with an open mind and make your own mind up and give it a whirl.
Yeah. Love that. What's next then for you and the business?
So in the next kind of 12 months, it's to get to sort of be much more strategic about growth. There's 2 or 3 things now that I keep referring to where I'm seeing some green shoots. Networking being one of those. But I'm very much a firm believer in having more than one strand of something working. So I'm going to go really big on social media.
Good on you.
I'm loving doing video and things like this. And I think Equity Release is desperate for some personality. It's very much a corporate-led industry. And financial services traditionally have been very cautious of social media, and I think it needs some personality in there, and I think there's an opportunity to go and fill that space.
Love that. Well, we're going to do a very quick shout out to the guys at Castle. Sarah's commenting, been watching all the time. Team Castle, thank you, Sarah. What? Very last question. Believe me, what categories or what business have you got waiting for in your chapter in Lancaster, where your chapter is based? What categories are you actively recruiting for? Because you want more referral partners, you want more people to pass business to.
Yeah, we do.
In your chapter. Give us a couple. They may be watching.
Okay, so we've got a little bit of a rebuild going on in our trades team. So builders, electricians, plumbers. 3 that spring to mind. And in the finance and legal side, we want estate planners, so people who are doing wills and lasting powers of attorney. We want surveyors, building surveyors, and property valuers. And we really would love a solicitor. We know that they can be harder to find, but we'd love to get a solicitor along. So many of us in the property and finance game that we're just, every piece of business that we do has to go to one or more of those people that I've mentioned on the legal and finance side. So we're waiting, and we're passing business all the time to those people outside the chapter.
Love that. So if you're in that profession, this group of business people, this group of entrepreneurs in Lancaster are looking for more referral partners to pass business to. If you think that might be for you, put your name in the chat. Someone will be in touch. Mark, I want to thank you so much for spending half an hour with me on this call. It's very much appreciated. Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thanks, Leo.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day, everybody. If you want to get more involved in building your business through referrals, then you know what to do. Name in the chat. Someone will be in touch, or just message me on LinkedIn. Find me, Liam Mulligan. I'll be there. Have a wonderful afternoon, everybody. We will see you not next week, because I'm away, but the week after we'll have another fantastic guest. Bye-bye, everybody.
I can't tell everyone I'm about to close down. Who gives money to a company that's about to close down? Are you mad? One of my clients was a big client that gave me about £180,000 worth of business. The new manager came in and completely stopped the service that we were part of. I needed to find basically £120,000 in 6 weeks. It really sort of hit home. What am I going to do? Even when I stood up, I wasn't going to say anything. And then I just did.
Suzanne had been a member of BNI for maybe a couple of months.
She stood up in a meeting.
I've got 2 weeks left of trading.
Everything might go down the tubes.
I burst into tears, ran out of the room after the meeting when I'd composed myself and went back in. Everyone was amazing. They were coming up to me saying, tell me about it, what's happening, which was really powerful.
Outside of BNI, if you put out there that you're struggling, your client base actually walks away. They don't want brand loyalty to someone that they don't think is going to be there in a few weeks' time.
We all felt for her, and I don't think there's anybody in the room that didn't go home afterwards, go through their entire dress book and think, who needs a blind? Who needs some wallpaper? Who needs something?
So the following week, suddenly, I got emails from everybody introducing me to people, asking how it was and what they could do to help me. David in particular introduced me to an estate agent.
I just tried to help her, really. Put her in touch with a couple of bigger customers that we had who we knew used interior designers.
He gave us a show flat to do almost straight away. To be honest, I wouldn't have got that work on my own. So if you sent an email, you try and do a follow-up call, you don't even get to speak to the person. From the meeting where I got emotional to the show flat and the first pieces of work coming through, it was probably around 2 to 3 weeks. My aim for this year was to hit 400k, and I think I've already done it. Something that I thought was going to take a few years to get to. I now have a team working with me, a larger team than I have before, and it's lovely to have the support. I know I could go to any one of those members. How often do you follow up after you've done a quote? You know, how do you deal with a staff member if this happens? And that's really reassuring in business because it's quite a lonely place.
When business goes badly, it really knocks the stuffing out of you. And part of the give as gain philosophy is that we can all pull together.
You're a team of people whose job is to support each other.
You know, it feels like you're just socialising, but the work that gets passed because you've had a one-to-one with someone, there's a big impact there. I think anybody that sort of says, do you know what, I'm not sure it's for me, I think they're really missing out massively.